The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host and producer, Christina Liu, along with my co-host today, Otto Los. Otto is a longtime volunteer, supporter, friend, my co-star every Friday, and just all around, the face of Project Independence. And today we're going to be talking with Dalia Elison, who is a licensed associate real estate broker with Douglas Elliman, about transitioning and downsizing for seniors. So welcome back to the show, Dalia.
Thank you. It's so good to be back, and it's so nice to see you, Christina.
Yes,
Hello,
it's so good
Otto.
to see you. It's good to catch up.
Absolutely.
Good morning. Pleasure to meet you.
You too.
I know you want to talk about downsizing. I guess the first question is, why would people downsize?
So that's a very good question to ask, because in this age and day, people are being bombarded with so many different information, and for lack of a better word, sometimes we feel we are lost and we have no direction. There was a time that downsizing was looked upon as a negative thing. It's no longer considered that. If you want to consider different options in life, downsizing would be a beautiful choice. One of the reasons you may want to consider is that living in a large home with just you and maybe another partner is very lonesome. You have nobody else in the house. You don't have any sense of community or belonging anymore. And you're spending hours every day, every week, cleaning empty rooms that nobody ever goes into. And you have stuff collecting over the years, which you never even touch. And it becomes at some point very hard to handle. And then on the other hand, you are paying high taxes, a lot of expenses as far as maintaining the home goes, landscaping goes, maybe even mortgage goes, and you're really not getting anything back for the money you're spending. And then we also have another factor that as we age, it's going to become harder for us to have multi-levels and go up and down the steps. And if we can avoid those things, why not consider downsizing? Believe it or not, we have a huge percentage of people who are downsizing these days. I can explain how we should go about to do this, but just keep in mind that baby boomers made the largest percentage of sellers last year in 2023.
I actually went through the process of downsizing. Had a big home in Manhasset and went through several years of mental gymnastics as to what I was going to do. So I think the thought process to start with is probably the more painful part of it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what gets tricky, right? And that's why this topic is so complicated, because you have this emotional component and tie to your home and your things. And, it's where my children grew up, and it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. I mean, I even know my own self, who's been in my house for like 12 years, and I'm so attached to everything. I had Christmas here. I had, all these, my friends over. So it's definitely something that's hard. And I think that that's right, Otto. That's the first step, is kind of just coming to terms with it.
Yeah.
Our children were born. We have so many memories in that home. We have so many attachments in that home. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not just about a number thing. It's more about emotional factor of moving. And because of that, whoever is even remotely considering a move, whether it's this year or even 3 years down the road, they should start a plan, because this is not going to happen overnight. You need to become familiar with what is going to happen, what kind of work needs to be done, until you really feel you're ready to make this move. There is a lot to be done. The rule that we talk about, a 1-year rule, if we were to take the inventory of the stuff we don't even look at within the year, we'll realize about 2/3 of our stuff is just sitting in our closets.
Dalia, don't tell my husband that rule.
No, that doesn't apply to clothing.
Okay, thank you.
That's
yeah, that's
no
its own
clothing
category.
and no shoes.
But I think
again,
that's a good point. And
You know, I think it's a lot, it's, as you know better than we do, it's very complicated. And it's not just a matter of, do I want to leave and do I want to downsize? Then the next part that I know I wrestled with is, okay, now what? Where am I going to go? What do I want? Do I want to move away? I think there's a lot of thinking that you get involved with in that whole process.
yes, because you have already built roots in your home, and the chances are your family are somewhere nearby. So the first of all, you have to be very honest with yourself. You have to sit down, go through a series of questions, have a conversation with yourself and your partner to decide what you really want, and then break it down to different steps. The first thing is for you to ask, do I want to stay local or do I want to go to a different city? And if I'm staying local, what do I want in the next chapter of my life? It is a process that needs a lot of planning. And I always say, seek professional help, individuals who are good at this. We have senior citizen specialists in the real estate who gear towards the wishes and needs of senior citizens. And then from there, decide what the right step is. Also, you got to ask many different questions as you go along every step. For example, are you still hosting a lot of parties, a lot of gathering? If you're still doing that, perhaps downsizing will not be right for you right this minute. Or again, are the rooms staying vacant and you keep on spending time and energy to clean it and nobody is there to do anything with it? That's a very, very big question to ask of yourself. And as I mentioned, sometimes people feel very lonely in a large home. Sometimes moving to a community where there is going to be more social interaction, activities, events, book clubs, and things like that will bring people together and give them some sense of community, some more feeling of belonging. These are questions that needs to be asked throughout the time. And if you have someone there with you to help you throughout these steps, it will become easier. Digesting it is going to be one bite at a time. And there is no one size fit all solution to this next chapter of your life, to this move. You got to do it a little at a time. Go ahead.
No, well, no, one of the things that I think comes into the equation, if you stay local and you go to another community locally, you do not have the school connection that you might have had when you were younger. So there's a lot of social stuff that comes out of children being connected to a school. And when you're older and your children are gone and you move to another community, you don't have that.
yeah.
And frankly, I found in my case, moving to New Hyde Park, Project Independence provided a lot of that. And, so it's you really have to think it through. That's the bottom line.
It's a process. And the question you ask out of is probably in everybody's mind. Even if I decide to move, where do I go? What's next? And this is one of the biggest dilemmas we are having in the real estate market these days. We have such shortage of inventory, and one of the biggest factors that's impacting it is the fact that even if somebody wants to sell, the next question is, where do I move? There is very little inventory in the market these days, so it's limiting everybody, and it's turning into a domino effect. So it's very easy to feel overwhelmed and kind of lost and confused. And nobody should go through this alone. You need to have someone you trust. You gotta have a team of trusted professionals, whether it's movers, decluttering companies, different agents from different parts of the country, even depending on what your goals are, to help you find a direction. And then you will be starting a little at a time. And as you move through the process, the path lights up as you move on one step at a time. If you were to think of the end result and what the end of the road is like, it becomes so overwhelming that you just freeze in your place. And I have been with a lot of people in that position. And at that point, it's just very hard to make the right choice. Seek the right professional to walk you through this, to guide you through this, whether it takes 6 months or 6 years. Have someone you trust. Sometimes sellers say, oh, I'm not ready to sell. Maybe it's 5 years from now. I'm not going to bother. But then there is this noise in our head that's constantly bothering us. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Let somebody be with you and hold your hand throughout those few years. And as you discuss these things with them, things will become more clear for you. Let them introduce you to different communities, to different options. Let them show you what the market is bearing. Every single season, we have a different market. And people get very what is the right word? People get nervous because when you listen to the news is talking about market in general. It's not talking about your community. It's talking about the market in the entire country. That doesn't apply to you specifically. Every market, every price range, every area is going to have its own report and its own results. So don't let the news get you more hyped and more nervous and stop you from moving forward. Let someone
that's a great point, because that was my next question. You do have, and that adds such a fear to, an already stressful situation, because you do hear, the market on either side, but that was a great little golden nugget there, Dalia, for us to know.
It doesn't apply to not every rule applies to every area.
Well, the market, one of the things I think that people do also look at is the financial part of it. Like, you say, oh, the market is great. I could get 800,000 for my house. And then the question is, great, what can I get for less than 800,000?
Yeah.
So I have some money left over. I think, which is one of the reasons people also downsize, is to maybe get out of a financial hole, to have a few dollars in reserve when it's over. And I think that's difficult right now in the current market, my opinion.
Affordability is a very big factor in making that decision. And that's why you need someone to give you options. 55 plus communities is no longer considered as an old age option. More and more people are going to that direction. And that may be a beautiful choice, because then you will not have to worry about the mortgage and the taxes and the maintenance. And if you're introduced to that lifestyle, you may find that it's going to take away so much burden. So it's very important to know who you're speaking with and who is guiding you throughout all of this. The tax break could be huge for people if they move on and downsize. And yes, where do you go from there? And yes, do you even know what the equity in your home is? People log into Zillow and they see a number and they think that is the Bible of real estate. I wish people would realize Zillow is no longer the right number for them, the right place to go to. You want to know how much your house is worth, and then decide what kind of equity you could pull out of it, and then decide whether that money that you could take out could go to a better use. We have people who decide that they're going to even rent and take that money from the sale of the home and make it into a passive income, to a rental property, to put it towards a different investment option. There are so many different options. But if this conversation is only in our own head and we just listen to the news and we keep on talking to ourselves, we are never going to find a way out of this hole.
Dalia, in this part of the world, you mentioned retirement type villages. If you want to stay local, like in Nassau County, there really aren't a whole lot of options that I'm aware of. You know, you wind up, you have to go out to Suffolk County somewhere or to another state. Am I correct in that, or?
No, we do have a few good ones. I'm actually constantly working with them. I don't want to specifically mention the names because there are right this second on top of my head, I could mention two beautiful communities that offer a lot of amenities and a very stress-free lifestyle within NASA community. And I'll be more than happy to connect anybody who likes to them. You do have options. You do not have to go all the way to Suffolk. If you want to stay local, because let's say this is where you are used to, this is where you shop, or perhaps even this is where your grandchildren are, why move away a whole hour drive when you could be local? We have some in New Hyde Park area, in Manhasset, Great Neck area, in Syosset area. Very, very good opportunities for someone who's interested to even explore. And exploring doesn't mean they need to commit. That commitment makes people also stop from exploring. There is no obligation and you do not need to make any commitment. Just explore your options. That's all.
Well,
good words.
We're gonna need to take a break, and after the break, we'll continue talking with Dalia Elison, licensed associate real estate broker at Douglas Elliman, about transitioning and downsizing for seniors. We'll be back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Christina Liu, along with my co-host, Otto Los. We're going to continue talking with Dalia Elison, licensed associate real estate broker for Douglas Elliman, about transitioning and downsizing for seniors. So, of course, we have so many questions, Dalia. And, you know, if someone's beginning their journey, right, they know, as you mentioned, it might take, a year, 6 years. At that point, would they contact a real estate person like, you to understand their options? What's their best starting point?
Starting point is to find someone you're going to trust and start as early as possible. I have so many clients who tell me, oh, I don't want to bother you because we are not ready. Oh, I don't want to bother you because we're just thinking about it. My advice has always been, it's not a bother. This is my job. My job is not to meet you today and sell or buy for you tomorrow. My job is to hold your hand throughout the process. You start early. You allow me or anyone you trust to keep you up to date with the market condition in your area, specifically in your area, not what you hear in the news. You allow that professional to keep you informed of other options. We have different things coming up every single year. We have 55 plus buildings that show up every single year, or even we have news about something coming up in 2 years. We get you connected to other states if that's what you want. You spend a lifetime making that home. It is going to need a while, and we are patient, and we are here for you.
You're bringing up a very important view of this whole thing. I believe a lot of people have the perception that you get a real estate agent and they'll show you a couple of houses. Right. Nowadays, you go on the internet, they'll show you a few houses, they'll take care of the closing, and they're getting overpaid. To be blunt.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, that's the image
Yeah.
that a lot of people have. And what you're pointing out is that there's more to it if you have the right person. This counseling, if you will, during a complex process is valuable and is worth money because you have people who have an exposure and experience that can guide you. And that's a good point.
Ado, I've been doing this for over 20 years and I have seen the industry changing. There used to be a time that people considered agents as car salesmen. And I remember people telling me, oh, it's so easy to make money and it's so much fun. You go see people's homes and all you do is just show and that's it. You make money. And as the years have gone, I have seen a very big shift in people's perception. There is a lot more respect for us agents because this is not all we do. And throughout all these years, there have been so many other people who joined us thinking how much fun and easy this place is, only to get discouraged a year later and walk away. Because then they realize how much goes into this whole process. In any case, the right person is not going to look at their client as a dollar sign. They are going to be there as their advisor. And the holding hand part is what makes the difference between one agent to another. And the sooner a person starts consulting the right person, the easier life becomes. It's no longer the fact that we come in, we show it to you, and then you are gone.
Well, I was in sales, my business life, corporate business to business, and I agree with you completely on the people who just try to sell something lose, in my opinion. You have to become, as you pointed out several times, somebody who can be trusted, which is a key word in any relationship. And when you're going to make a major move, like sell a house and buy something, that's big time.
People are very intelligent. People see right through someone who's not being very honest. People are no longer falling for a sales pitch. You got to really mean it for them to trust you. It's an important factor.
On you being a member of an elite sports and entertainment team. What does that mean?
So we have a very small division within our company, Douglas Element, and this division caters to the high net worth individuals and the people who are in the entertainment and sports division. And for that, we have a different approach because a lot of times they do not want to be mentioned anywhere, and everything needs to be done in a very quiet manner. And our connection is not necessarily every day with that individual, but we speak with their advisors and help them and navigate that real estate transaction for them in a very quiet manner. There are only two of us in Long Island, and it's a very small group of people that we cater to the high net worth individuals. And speaking of high net worth individuals and their advisors, Douglas Element is one of the only companies who has a huge outreach to all other countries. We are very big globally. And because we are one of the only companies who's individually owned, when we have a seller, the entire country and globally, we work for that seller. We send the listing of that home to the wealth advisors of the people in other countries. So our network is so big that the chances of getting the highest possible price for your home multiplies because of our outreach to the entire world, I should say, globally.
Dalia, if somebody wants to talk to you, what should they do?
contact me. I have assistant who takes care of things, but when it comes time to speak with people, nobody talks to them but me. I need to make sure I'm the right fit for them and they feel comfortable with me. My phone number is always public, and I'm always available for people for consultation. All they need to do is, I do have a digital card, which makes it very easy. What you do is just click on it. You could save my info, call me, text me, or email me through that, and just makes the communication very easy. I'm always accessible.
Yeah, that's a good point you raised also about, are you the right fit with that person? And I used to preach to people, you talk for an hour about the great product that you have, but you never asked anybody any questions to find out, do they really need that product? And if there's no fit, don't waste each other's time. So
yeah, no, and I think, I like when you were listing out kind of the steps in the process of how to go about downsizing or finding your next step. And, when would they need to have kind of a plan in order before reaching out to a real estate agent, or could they immediately be like, all right, I'm ready to start thinking about this, I'm going to pick up the phone and call Dalia or whoever?
You don't need to have a plan. You need to know that sometime down the road you need to make a change. And that's the only reason you need to have in order to contact me. Again, we have a lot of noise in our head all the time. And the more conversation we have with ourselves, the harder it becomes to digest and find a way out of wherever we are. You need to speak out your concerns and let someone navigate it for you. Let someone help you decipher this whole puzzle. It's not as hard. If it's only a one-way conversation in our own head, it becomes overwhelming. But it won't be when you have someone who cares about you and your future by your side.
Christina and I, both major list makers.
Me too.
I would say, yeah. And this, preparing for this and rethinking the whole process, the need to make a few lists is not a bad idea either. Each piece has like, okay, I'm going to move, I'm going to declutter, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. They're all complicated. And like I always say, there's only one way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
I have actually a book that I have published about downsizing. And it's a huge help for people who just want to toy with the idea of moving. I have always made it available to everybody. It will give you an idea of where you want to go from here. And I'll be more than happy to share it with anyone who's interested. I have it both in hard copy and digital. It will be a huge help for anyone who's interested. I have had a lot of communication with assisted living homes and other people who are thinking about it, and the feedback has always been that this book has been a nice guidance for them, a big help for them to find the path at the beginning.
How do they go about doing that? Again, by contacting you or?
Yes,
Right.
yes. All they need to do is reach out to me and we will arrange to either send them a hard copy or send them a digital copy, which is another thing. Today's senior citizens are becoming more tech savvy, and that will make it an easier lifestyle for them. Their homes may or may not be technologically up to date. We will be able to introduce them to communities that will make life much easier for them because of the technology and the amenities that these assisted living or senior living homes are offering to make life easier for them. Again, there is so much out there to offer. All they need to do is ask, and we'll be happy to provide all that for them.
No, and
Now,
I think that's a
Christina,
great
you
point.
have all the contact information.
Yes,
email
yeah,
or-
absolutely. And anyone
Yeah.
listening could always call me at 311 or 516-869-6311. And I'd be more than happy to get you Dalia's information and get you connected, because I think that is a great point, Dalia, that you said. And we always say this on the show, is that there's, in all realms of life, there's so much out there. There's so many organizations and services that are able to help you, but you just don't even know where to begin. So I think it's making that initial call and finding out what your options are is just so it alleviates so much stress. I think it's like making that first call can help to really get you on the right plan for you, because it is an individual plan.
100%. It has to be individually geared towards your needs. And at the end of the day, maybe after a long conversation or after a year or two of considering, the homeowner may decide they're not ready to move. And
Right.
perhaps another option, like let's say reverse mortgage, would be the right option for them. For that, you also need someone to guide you and introduce you. Reverse mortgage is when you could borrow against the equity of your home as long as you live in that house. Sometimes that would be the right option for you. But you won't know until you knock at our door and let us guide you through it.
Well, you can always treat your home, which is what I do, frankly, like it's a condo. Basically, do nothing. You know, and not long ago, we put in a walk-in shower on the main floor, which does have a main level living capability, which I think is a key area. If you have to handle flights of stairs to go to bed or to go to the bathroom or whatever, you're in a bad situation, in my opinion. Or you'll be eventually isolated on the second floor, which I know people in that category. And that is true. That's where they are. They're isolated on the second floor of their home.
It's a shame. Nobody should live like that. Nobody should feel limited. Okay, there is so much that could be done to make life easier for you and more enjoyable. We didn't live many years of suffering or working hard only to get stranded in our own home. That's not a way to live. We need to find an easier way, and we are here to guide you. There is a lot of options that you have.
And then too, Dalia, like, if someone has, needs assistance decluttering, right? We're always on the show talking about organizing and trying to declutter, your life. And is that something that, if they reached out to a real estate agent, that they'd be able to get connected to those kind of things depending on what their need might be?
Absolutely. I have a good team by my side to help with every need a client may have. Decluttering is one of the first needs and one of the most important needs. Where do they begin? How do they organize? How do they decide what to keep, what to let go? And if you want to let it go, a lot of times they have different, the client has different questions. Do I just give it away? Do I just throw it out? Or do I even sell it?
Mm-hmm.
Do they know how much any piece of furniture is worth? All of that needs to be answered by a professional. I have people who are state specialists. They are tax sales specialists. I have people who are very, very knowledgeable when it comes to antique pieces. And I have people who donate everything. There are so many different people I could connect the clients to. And again, they don't need to feel that they are obligated and they must start working with us. That is a very big factor that people shy away from contacting us. There is no obligation. You need to start somewhere and let us guide you through all that step until you find where you're headed. Let us declutter your mind by showing you every step that you need to take before you actually take the step to move and find a new place.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. I know from talking to other people about all the stuff that they have, and I got very involved with the digitizing photos and you have to, like I said before about the elephant, you got to take it one step at a time.
Well, on that note, Otto, we're going to talk more about stuff. After the break, we will continue talking with Dalia Elison, licensed associate real estate broker at Douglas Elliman, about transitioning and downsizing and decluttering all of our real estate needs. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Christina Liu, along with my co-host, Otto Loos. We will continue talking with Dalia Ellison, licensed associate real estate broker at Douglas Elliman, about transitioning and downsizing and just all kinds of real estate questions.
Well,
I knew Otto was just itching to say something.
Dan sometimes cuts me off. He doesn't want me to say anything. Right? But you sold me, Dalia, on the need for a professional agent to handle this whole process. Mm-hmm. It's a very different image than we talked about earlier, which I think is very important in this kind of situation. So anyhow, Dan, see, I'm off the mic.
Yeah. No, but I think that is a great point. And that's what I really wanted to drill home to the audience is that, a real estate agent can connect you to so many services. I know a lot of our seniors in all kind of realms of life, and not even just seniors, anyone, you kind of want that one-stop shop feeling. So it's like, I don't have to call around to 10,000 people, if you find that trusted person, and they're able to connect you to such a network, of people that they trust, so it really makes the process a lot easier than just trying to figure out, oh my God, who do I call to help me declutter, my garage?
We didn't even get to the point where, okay, finally we got through all of this. Right. And now we have other problems, codes that weren't met. We have to talk to the buildings department and whatever. I just had a whole bunch of friends go through that. And if they didn't have a good person backing them, they would have had problems. So anyhow, there's a whole long list.
Yeah, that's also our job. Before we decide to put a house on the market, we need to see whether there are any open permits, whether the COs are in place, whether there is anything that needs to go through the building department. We don't want any surprises on the 11th hour when we find the right buyer with the right credentials, with the right offer, and then all of a sudden, we find out that we cannot close because of different factors. An informed agent, a professional agent, will not only ask the seller ahead of time if there is a red flag or something to be concerned about, but they will also be able to guide you, or even at some points do their own due diligence with the building department to make sure that we are not going to have any hiccups down the road. The whole point is for the seller, for the homeowner to know they're not alone. They don't need to do this alone. They don't need to take the whole obligation by themselves. We are here to help you. And this is what the difference between thinking that you can do it on your own and having someone by your side would be. Let us guide you through this.
All good points.
Absolutely. Dalia, you had mentioned your book. So on this show, we always call them our golden nuggets, and that's what people get to take away, of just some concrete tips. And we love those golden nuggets. And you've already given us a bunch today. But as far as the transitioning and downsizing, is there any other golden nuggets that you have in your book that, our listeners could take away?
You need to know, my book is general for any time of the market. After you read that book, you will still need to connect with me to find out what is happening in your market. Right now, any house that's under $1 million still is having a bidding war. and still is seller's market. And
Mm.
it may sell over asking price. So reading my book is a general guideline. From there, you need to specifically stay in touch with me so I could tell you actually what the value of your home is. This is the best advice I could give anyone who's thinking about this process.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a process.
Yeah.
One of the areas is the adjustment, the mental part of it, all the way through. Like you said, you're giving up a neighborhood, you're giving up this, you're giving up that, and a lot of people, life is just change. You know, the only thing constant is change, and the emotional part of this, I believe, is probably one of the biggest hurdles why people don't
Yeah.
do it. And I think the guidance that you provide can help people get past that hurdle, if you will. You know, a lot of people are just not going to change. That's who they are, and they're going to wind up on the second floor of their house with nowhere else to go. But you can't change everybody. But the people who are open-minded, you're a good source. Anyhow, that's my story.
Listen, after speaking with a professional, everybody is entitled to their own decisions. They might decide that staying put is the right choice for them. But at least at that point, you are making an informed decision and you feel a lot more confident about that decision. And you don't have to have that war inside your head. What should I do? Where do I go? What do I do? You decide based on the information that you're being given. This is not the time for you to move, and you have peace of mind, and you stay in your home, whether it's the second floor or the first floor. It's all about you feeling at home and feeling that you belong wherever that is, whether in your current home or in another place. Let us guide you so you have that clarification within your own mind to make an informed decision. That's where the key factor is.
You know, the decluttering thing is, we've talked about on this show a lot of times, and probably a good idea to do that, whether you're going to move or not, for your own sanity and for future family who may have to clean up after your mess. You know, and I've been there and I've done the cleaning up. You know, 20 years of electric bills and stuff that people really don't need to keep. The guidance on decluttering, I think, is worth its weight in gold right
Yeah.
there.
I mean, we end up talking about decluttering every show somehow, it feels like, you know, because it really is something, you know, and especially, as I said earlier, as you get older, it's only more difficult because more and more stuff, you know, has accumulated, and it's tough. It's certainly
you start one closet at a time.
Yeah.
You start with things that you haven't touched in years. You make different boxes. You make labels on each box. You start one day at a time, one step at a time. There is no other way. It could take for as long as it's needed, but the earlier you start, the easier the process will become.
It feels good too.
It does.
It does.
I got rid of 2 giant bags of clothes, and you would have thought I had the greatest accomplishment. My husband said there was more to go, you know, but I was
Well, that's a point, by the way. It's ongoing.
It is. That's what I said. I said this is an ongoing process. But you know, I put in my bag. I work with Big Brothers Big Sisters Long Island. They come right to my house. They pick up, you know, the bag, and you feel good. And it just, I felt away. You know, of course, it was an excuse for me. Well, you know, and now I could fit a little more in the closet. But it really is something that I think it does make you feel good. And we talk a lot about the mental health component of it. And it makes you feel lighter too, just to get rid of a lot of these things, you know, and it's tough, but I understand. I'm an emotional and attached person. You know, I save a lot of little knickknack things, and I get the difficulty of, you know, separating from those things. So it's
we are all human beings. It's normal. Yeah. You know, I was going through my stuff, and my kids will kill me if they find that I'm saying this. I found boxes from the time they were born the little hat that they had in the hospital and the little shoes and even their umbilical cords. Each one of my kids have their own boxes. How do you get rid of these? Okay, so I get it. It's not an easy thing to do. But also, I want you to keep in mind down the road, when you're ready to sell your home, the less things a potential buyer sees in the house, the better it is. Okay, we want it to be such a clear space that the future buyer will be able to see themselves there. They don't want to see your lifestyle. And your lifestyle, maybe you want a lot of greenery, let's say plants. That's beautiful. But if there are plants sitting there and some of them have already turned yucky and yellow and you just don't bother with it, those are little things that could very easily be taken care of. But we overlook things. At some point, when the right person shows up and assesses your space, they will be able to help you and point out the things that could very easily make life easier for you. I apologize. So yeah, the decluttering part needs to have someone there to help you. And we do have organizers, professional organizers to help you with that.
You know, Dalia, is there, without using any names or anything, is there like an example of a client you've dealt with, you know, that was a senior that transitioned that you could just share as kind of a glimpse into their journey?
Yeah, we actually had a couple who had been thinking of moving for like 3 years. And the agonizing part was to make a decision that we are ready to move. We closed on their current home actually about 6 months ago, and they made a transition to a 55 plus home. And now they are telling me they wish they had done this years ago. Now that they see how much their life has changed, the quality of their life and the peace of mind they are having, they're saying, what were they waiting for? Now, in hindsight, they wish they had done this much, much sooner than that. And this is a typical reaction I see from a lot of my clients. So give yourself an opportunity to just explore your options down the road. Don't be afraid.
You know, one of the areas I think that goes through the thinking a lot nowadays, especially, is everybody talks about New York, you know, no good. I'm going to move and you're going to get out. And I think there's a major decision that people have to make top level, local, out of state. And I know people who've done both, and I know people who've gone out of state and regretted it. So I think you really have to give a lot of thought to your lifestyle, your health needs. Do you have all your doctors near here? Are your children near you here? Why are you running away? You know, do you get through that whole process? I'm suspect in detail.
I have connections and associates in almost every state. At that point, in order for you to see whether another state is or another town or city is better for you, I would also bring them on board so they could educate you about the lifestyle in another place, another state. You know, you could be thinking local versus a different state. Let us help you see what the other places offer you, whether moving to a different place, a different state would be the right thing for you or not. Again, one-stop shop. Let us navigate it and make the road easier for you. Yes, we do start from the top. The first question is, do I stay local or do I move away? And from there, there's going to be a tree and a big outline of the steps you need to take depending on each decision that you make. And we will navigate you throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, that's, you know, and you had mentioned too, and on the show, we've talked about this and about, you know, real estate companies have these senior real estate specialists, you know. Is that something that every real estate company has part of, you know, their organization, or you have to specifically look for that?
We agents have the obligation to become the specialist. It's up to us whether we want to take the courses and become a specialist. It's a designation that each individual can, each agent can decide whether they want to do it or not.
And that's just like they're trained particularly to like deal with certain senior needs. You know, what would a senior real estate kind of specialist do that someone who isn't?
To intimately know a senior's wishes, demands, and needs. There is a lot, as we've been talking about it, there is a lot to decipher. And not every agent is going to be able to be sensitive to the needs of a senior citizen. So the more informed the agent is, the more well-knowledged about the background and the lifestyle of a senior the agent is, the easier it's going to be a guiding light for that senior citizen.
My opinion is it's probably a much slower process than when younger people want to buy a house. Because
most probably.
Because of all the things that we've just touched on, there's more labored thinking,
Yes.
I mean, if you're younger and you're going to buy a house, you're going to buy a house, and, and you want to be in this neighborhood, period. I don't think it's as complicated.
It's a different process when we are older.
Yes. Most things.
I'm actually going. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. As it is with life.
But you use the right word. Older. Never older.
Right. That's
older.
Right. Yeah, but I just think that the overall message in this, and I really think, you sold auto, which is, the number one accomplishment of the show, is to know that it's never too early to reach out. You don't have to be set in your decision. I love that you said that, because you might come to the choice that, what, I decided I want to stay in my own home, and I think that it's so great that you said, just call you. Because I also had the misconception that, until I'm ready to sell my house, I shouldn't be contacting a real estate agent, but I think that that's so important, because, it's a lot of times we just need a little time to kind of work through our options and our plans.
I think there's a one other major factor, and that is your health situation. What is your cognitive situation, and what is your mobility situation?
Yeah, exactly.
And in general, what other health problems do you have? And I think that becomes a big deal also.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think, reach out. And Dalia, what is your best contact number for someone to reach out to you?
516-707-9022 is the best number.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe we just finished that. I just got the high sign. I'd like to thank you so much, Dalia Elison, for joining us today with such great information. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. Take care.